Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. You're welcome to reviews and recaps. Let's get into today's episode. So today we're going to be talking about Ready to Love Season 6, Episode 11. So the episode started with the Gentleman's Lounge. And so it was the final four. Demetrius, I still don't know why he was there, but anyways. Clifton, Donovan, and Mr. Paul. I honestly can't believe that Paul made it until the end. It's quite shocking, to say the least. But let's just get into it, really. So the final four men, and Uncle Tommy was basically saying that, if anybody is not taking the process seriously, he will remove them himself. And I was like, okay, Uncle Tommy, alrighty, I hear what you are saying. So Tommy proceeded to share with the group that Tina ghosted him. And so her time in the process has ended. I was like, Tina is too busy hanging out with people from the last season to make time for her connections. That's the gag. Anyways, we move. So Tommy was basically saying to the men that it was time for them to introduce the ladies to their family. And so, of course, the guys are thinking, okay, all right, cool. We're finally at the end of the process. It's time to introduce, right? So Clifton was the first person to introduce his family to Joy. So Clifton brought his uncle and his cousin. And so I thought his cousin asked Joy really good questions. His cousin basically asked Joy, why now? Why is she ready for love now? And I think Joy answered the question quite well as well. What did you guys think? Did you think that Joy answered the questions very well? Joy basically also said that, Clifton checked every box for her without her having to tell him anything. I was like, okay, all right, interesting. It's interesting from day one, Joy has had her eyes set on Clifton. And I'm surprised they stayed till the end, but in a way, they're the only ones that seem to have some sort of a remote connection. The rest seem to be doctoring connections at this point, okay? So, in a way, I feel sort of, at least they're there. They seem to genuinely like each other. Now, I don't know whether, it's going to last. I highly doubt it, but at least the very foundation, they do seem to genuinely like each other, or at least have some sort of connection, right? Anyway, so the elephant was brought up, the elephant in the room, which is that Joy would be moving for a couple of months. And so her and Clifton would have to be in a long distance relationship if they continue to date outside the process. It does seem that Clifton's family do like Joy. Joy is a ball of good energy. She's almost like love and light, just happy, good vibes generally. The uncle basically said that he feels like there was a sincerity about her. And also the cousin did specifically say that he liked her. So it sounds like they both approve of his choice in Joy. Now, I guess we just have to see and, remain open and wonder if the process will eventually work. On the other hand, Donovan and Miss Sabrina decided to sit down for a little chit chat after the crazy back and forth that they had in the last sort of, group deliberation. If you guys have not seen that episode, please, I need you guys to listen to my commentary on that. It was given very much crazy, intense. I do not understand what's going on. Is there something else we're not seeing? Vibes. Anyway, Sabrina came with the energy, you can tell. But also, Mr. Donovan walked into that scene like he was ready for war. So it sounds like both of them were ready. They were ready for the confrontation. I would say that. Their energies did not give, we're hoping to be able to sit down and resolve it. It was given very much, we are going to have a confrontation. That's the vibe I got. You guys might say or feel differently, and if you do, you're allowed to. Let me know in the comment section below. So perhaps you can express how you feel, and maybe I might be able to see where you're coming from. But from my perspective, I thought that they both looked like they wanted war. So they were both defensive. They didn't both coming like we're really trying to resolve this and hopefully get into some sort of resolve. Instead, it was very much, we're here just back and forth and that's that really. So Sabrina was like, so why did you call me out here? And Donovan was like, well, I called you out here talking about, he has respect for the process and he wouldn't be here if he wasn't ready to love. And essentially, he didn't like Sabrina's comment in the general deliberation about not feeling like Donovan was here ready for love, really. And then he proceeded to call Sabrina out and say that she has not been consistent with him or anyone in this process. I'm like, ooh. Okay, Mr. Donovan, giving me petty boot, but I am here for all of it. And he basically said he feels like she is playing games. And this is the chaos that she created. I'm like, oops. Okay. Then, in Sabrina's confession, she was basically saying that she doesn't understand why Donovan was just sitting here like a big baby because she had multiple connections with multiple men and she doesn't understand what the issue is. And she never hid the fact that Demetrius remained a connection for her. Can I just say the conversation was awkward as hell? I did not even know what was going on. It just seemed like there was just this weird tension and energy. I'm just like, there's something else happened behind the scenes that we're not privy to, because it just doesn't make any sense. The level of I don't understand the level of discord there. I just don't understand. Could it be that Sabrina is an emotional gangster that we have not seen on the screen and she just comes across so pleasant and sweet, and which is why the men, Donovan, Levine, are coming at her crazy? I don't know what it is. Or could it be that they're just, Donovan in particular is just jealous of the fact that she has multiple connections? And, one thing Sabrina does come across as is being an indecisive person. It's almost like she is indecisive about what choice she wants to make. If you don't know whether you want to be there, then pull yourself out and remove yourself out of the experience. And you should have done that quite early in the process, It almost seemed like she wanted to stay until the end. Was it that she wanted to boost her ego by having multiple men fawn over her? Or is it that she's scared of commitment? Or I don't know. She just brought up a lot of red flags, if I'm being honest. If I was any other guys, I would be concerned moving forward in my experience of dating her. Anyways, let's move forward a little bit. One thing Sabrina said in her confessionals that got me was like, Phil was right. Donovan is an asshole. I was like, what? Phil is Donovan's best friend. So if he called Donovan an asshole, was that as a joke or what? And even if it was, that's not the time for you to low blow Phil by saying Phil was right. Like, Phil is his best friend. Like, what are you trying to stir up, sister? Like, what is going on? Anyways, I just thought that was just weird. Like, I don't know what you're trying to do, but Sabrina, don't do it. Don't do it. Anyways, we move forward to Donovan and Carmen. Actually, before Donovan and Carmen, it was Paul and Dakia, right? So Paul and Dakia basically went on a date. And so Paul was basically saying about, there's been a lot of decompressing that needs to be done after the brunch, blah, blah, blah. Dakia was like, well, that's not the word I would use to call it. I'm like, yes, Dakia, I would not use that word either, but whatever. And then Paul basically was trying to have a conversation to clear up what was said. He tried to explain what he meant to Dakia, and he said that Carmen twisted it all up. I personally believe Paul. I don't believe that Paul would say it in the way that Carmen portrayed it as being said. Carmen has showed up in this competition, in this experience, as very much like she's taking it as a competition from day one. And she's been very arsy towards Dakia from day one. So I will not be surprised if she twisted it in a way that benefited her. That's my personal opinion. But I guess we'll get some clarity at the reunion. So in a way, I'm just ready to wait till the reunion to see. And then, Dakia made this really smart remark, basically saying that, her curves were fine-tuned at the gym. But, Miss Carmen's curves were fine-tuned by a surgeon. I was like, okay. All righty. Like, okay, Dakia, come through with a classy shade, giving her a little read. Okay. So Paul basically gave her some heads up and asked if she would want to meet a family member of his, which she agreed to. Paul basically said that he thinks that the family member would love her and respond well to her. I was like, okay, seems okay, I guess. Fingers crossed, we'll see what happens. So next thing, it's Donovan and Carmen. So Donovan was basically bringing Carmen to meet his mom. Donovan and Donovan's mom it's very obvious that they have some sort of like a really, really close-knit relationship. From what his mom will, reveal in the conversation, it sounds like you sort of just grew up together in a sense, and the mom is like his best friend or something. So it just sounds like they have that really close-knit relationship. So one thing Donovan said was that, his mom has never met anyone he was dating. And I was like, okay, that's weird, because weren't you married? So didn't your mom meet that person, or are you lying now on the show? I don't know what it is, but I didn't like that. So I am curious. I guess hopefully after Ready to Love ends, he will have an interview where he would clear that up for all of us, because I wasn't quite sure what that was about. If you guys knew what that was about, let me know in the comment section below, because I was definitely confused. I can tell you that for sure. Anyways, the first thing I noticed when Miss Carmen walked in was that she covered up well. She was not wearing any of those her bodycon, ass out, body out outfits. She was properly covered. She was wearing this long ass dress. I've never seen her wear that long dress that is not bodycon. She was wearing a blazer. She was very much giving classy woman, rounded, all that good stuff. And she, I guess one thing you can take from Carmen is she really does know how to play the game very well. She knows how to show up when it comes to a competition. She really does. Like, you have to give it to her. It's like she knows how to get, the attention that she wants. She knows, like, she went from being the bottom on Donovan's list to being his choice. Now, I guess if Sabrina didn't act the way Sabrina acted, maybe she might not have. But Carmen had a way of just swooping in and making Paul feel like he was the only one, even though she was still pursuing her connections with Donovan. And so, if there is something to be learned from somebody, I would say, whilst I don't particularly like her or like how she comes across on the show, because I don't know her to not like her. I don't particularly like how she comes across on the show. I think we can learn a thing or two from Carmen and how she handles competition and how she handles different instances on the show. Not everything, just some things. So one is, if you're going to be meeting your partner's mother, please make sure you really think about your choice of outfits. Make sure if you can avoid something that is body hugging, as long as you possibly can. I think it's best. You don't want to look like it's all S. You want to keep that on the low a little bit. You can't leave everything on full display. You can't have your titties out. It just doesn't seem appropriate. Let me know. Have you ever, met your partner's mom, and what did you guys wear to the meetup? Let me know in the comment section below. I want to hear your wild stories. Like, did you actually get in a situation where you wore something and your partner's mom did not approve or appreciate that? Now, that's a story I would want to know. Anyways, they had a good old little chat. Donovan's mom pretty much likes Carmen, which was the bottom line of the situation. And she actually said that Donovan should not let that one go. I'm like, okay, mother. Interesting. Carmen is good. She charmed Donovan's mom. Unless Carmen is not this villain that, the show depicts her to be. Because I don't understand. Like, how did she charm Donovan's mother? That is something I would want to know. Like, Carmen, you need to put out a book. How to charm even the most intense of mothers. I don't know. Do something. Because you seem to have a lot of tips that could be useful for some of the ladies out in these streets, okay? Anyway, so Demetrius and Sabrina went on their little date. Sabrina was talking about, I appreciate the opportunity to sit down. I want to be honest with you about where I stand. I'm like, okay. Where do you stand exactly? I think we all want to know. Everyone wants to know at this point. I know for me, I want to know, and I'm sure he wants to know as well. And so she proceeded to say, we do have some alignment, but, I do have some concerns. I'm like, yes, of course, you're allowed to have concerns and you're meant to bring it up. And, these sorts of things are meant to be hashed out. And if they can't be resolved, then you know what it is and you can proceed accordingly. Okay. So she proceeded to say there is a weird power dynamic between us. I'm like, power dynamic? Really? I didn't see it, but interesting. I did not see that. Like, I know she says it. I know she said, she's not submissive and all of those things. But in terms of seeing that play out, like the weird power dynamic, I have not seen that play out in the way in which she's expressing it. So, I don't know. It would be interesting to get some more clarity about that in hopefully an interview with maybe a Little Black Book in the future or something. I hope, someone gets some clarity on what she is referring to there. I can absolutely use that clarity, okay? Thank you, Sabrina. Anyways, Demetrius was like, well, yes, he was glad she mentioned it because in front of Tommy, basically, he felt like she was saying that Demetrius needs someone that is submissive. But he's like, we've had this conversation before. I told you I don't need someone that's submissive. The people I've dated previously were not submissive, That's not something that I need. And essentially, it was like a little, back and forth conversation. Then Sabrina proceeded to say, you did mention you want your wife to take your last name. And Demetrius was like, that's a natural thing. Miss Sabrina was like, what if she wants to keep her last name? I'm like, okay. And then talked about how in her past relationship, she kept her last name. And then she also proceeded to say for her, and then, she wants to keep her last name. And Demetrius was basically saying for him, it needs to be a conversation. Essentially, what it sounded like was Demetrius definitely wants his wife to keep to take his last name. Sabrina definitely wants to keep her last name. So it sounds like fundamentally, they have very, very distinct values. Now, these sorts of things are things that they can have a conversation about in the sense that, like, someone might, feel like, oh yeah, I want my wife to take my last name. But at the core of it, when you sit down and have a conversation with them, you find out that they just want it because that's how that's the only way they've seen it done. And to them, they think that that's how it needs to be done. But when they see a different perspective, then sometimes they're like, okay, no, actually, I'm fine with you keeping your last name. It's just something that I thought was important, but in hindsight it isn't that important. And so I think it's one of those things where sometimes when people say certain things, you need to get to the nitty-gritty of why they say certain things. What is it? Just because he thinks it's a natural thing? Why do you think that is a natural thing? Is it because that's what you've experienced? Is it a non-negotiable for you? Like, if it is a non-negotiable, then we can't negotiate about this, then this is going to be an issue. If it is something that is not a non-negotiable, then there is some room there to sort of have dialogue regarding that. And it sounded like Demetrius was open to some dialogue about it. Now, he might still say no, but at least he was open to some dialogue about it. Now, I think at the core of it, Sabrina is probably very scared about any level of submission. And I think for her, when she heard his friend say submission, for her, things shifted then. But instead of her to have said, you know what, let me be honest, this is where I'm at. Things have shifted for me. I am very concerned. I don't think there is anything you can do that will make me feel less concerned about the submission issue that has now come up. So I think I will bow out from this process. Instead, she didn't do that. Instead, she sort of strung these men along and just left it until the end of the process. Now, could it be that, of course, it's, I think with us, we watch these the season in episodes. It could have happened over the course of like such a short time. And as we know, people don't just wake up and make these decisions. They think about it, they ponder on it. So it's a fast track process anyway. So we don't know how long it took for her to, decide. It might have literally been within the space of 2 weeks, in which case she is more than justified in taking her time to decide. Okay? We don't know for sure. So I think that's also something that we probably need clarity on. What do you guys think? I'm very curious to see what you guys think about this whole Sabrina and Demetrius thing. Do you think that Sabrina is just being so perfectionist, like is being such a perfectionist that she's missing out on good and solid opportunities to connect with men? Or what is the problem? What do you guys think genuinely is the problem? Do you think she's an emotional gangster privately, but just comes across as very sweet? Or do you genuinely think that she thinks that her match is not here and she's decided to bow out? Anyways, that was what that was. Next scene was Paul, Dakia, and Paul's brother, really. They sat down. Paul's brother was asking questions, to Dakia, and also answering Dakia's questions as well. I thought it was a pretty decent conversation. Paul's brother said, what do you think he needs in a partner? Dakia asked, what do you think he needs in a partner? And then essentially Paul's brother was saying that it has to be someone who's fair, mutual respect, across the board, and that Paul tends to stay in relationships longer than he should, and he tends to be the one giving everything into it. And so essentially it needs to be a relationship where it is reciprocated. And so anyways, Dakia left the date really feeling like she needs to figure out whether it is still friendship between her and Paul, or are they forcing it to be more than what it is? And I think that is a very fair question, because she's asking that question. Even I'm asking that question. I'm outside looking in, and I'm wondering whether Dakia and Paul are forcing it to be something that it is not. I think some solid relationships start on the basis of, a really good friendship. So I think they should not put any pressure on themselves. If they wish to explore it after the process, they really should just stay friends for a while and actually date properly inside and outside of the process. I do not think they should decide, okay, wait, let's kiss on each other and agree to be in a relationship. No. I think they need to decide, let's leave as friends who will continue to get to know each other and see if it happens. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. One thing Paul's brother did say was that he thinks Takia is amazing, but she has a lot of textbook answers. But he sees potential there. So I was like, okay, all right, I hear that. I think Takia can be quite reserved. Also, in a way, I think Takia probably spent all her energy on Clifton. At first, she spent her energy on Eric, then Clifton, and it didn't work out with either of those men. So I think at this stage with Paul, she is famished, she is tired. She ain't got any more energy to give y'all. Like, she's just like, yo, I'm going to just show up, be reserved, and that's that. I'm not going to do more than that. And I think that's where she's at, which is understandable. Like, first, the process is draining as hell, guys. I can tell. I'm not even in the process, but I can tell it's draining. And I just think, like, just give the girl a break, man. And I know a lot of people are saying, like, why can't she just leave the process and stuff? And I think, on the one hand, I hear what people are saying, but at the same time, if you really come somewhere looking for love, you don't want to feel like you're giving up on the process. You want to feel like you've genuinely tried and checked out and checked to see if there are really any connections there before you head out. And I think that's where that is what she's trying to do. She's genuinely trying to explore all of the connections. Like, one thing you would say about Takia is she definitely explored all the connections. And I think at the moment she's still exploring with Paul. But because it's been so fast-tracked, she hasn't really felt whether or not he is a good fit yet for her. So I think that's what that is. Anyway, so the guys were back at the gentleman's lounge. It's meant to be the last one. And of course, Tommy was asking the guys for feedback. And, Clifton started it off and was basically telling Tommy that, it all went well. He does have concern, family loved her as well, but their concern is also her traveling for 6 months in 1 year, things like that, which is understandable because it's like going from seeing your partner regularly to now being in a long distance relationship is a different ball game entirely. And for those of you, or myself included, that have been in long distance relationships, it is not easy at all. It's very intense. And you end up spending quite a bit of money, on traveling to visit them, calling them all the time. At least now with the Wi-Fi, things are better. But back then, when things were so different, it was like, you have to constantly pick up the phone to call them. So when, Wi-Fi or internet wasn't that accessible at the time, it's just things were so different then. But now it's a little bit easier for you to do FaceTime easily and video calls and things like that. So it doesn't feel as bad as it would have been years ago. But it's still not, I guess, the ideal situation, if that makes any sense. Now, if both of you are like financially stable and you got that coin, honey, and your schedule works very well, then I think it's fine. But it just adds that added layer of like stress on the relationship. If it started off as a long distance, you both know what you signed up for, so it's a bit different, right? But when it starts off as you being physically in the same space to then moving out of being in the same space, then you can genuinely tell that it is an adjustment, okay? So it's a bit different. And so then, nephew Tommy was asking Paul about his connection with Takia, and he basically straight up asked him, why did it take so long for you and Takia to connect? And Paul was basically saying, well, scheduling and things like that. I think Tommy is very fed up of the sorts of couples that come out of this process. Because the way he was really questioning Paul, I was like, yo, I need you to keep this level of questioning for all of these men. Because the truth is, a lot of these men come out here and they're not ready to love. A lot of these men come out here to genuinely play with these women. And these women are coming actively wanting a relationship and wanting to find love. But these men keep playing with their feelings, with their hearts. And so I think Tommy needs to be questioning them a lot more and not leaving it till the end. And so literally, Tommy was like, I'm watching you, Paul. I'm like, yes, you better watch him because, it's important to protect people's hearts in general. It's just not nice to just protect people's heart. Just treat people the way you want to be treated. That's it. If you're not really interested in her, don't string her along, and vice versa, Anyway, so moved on to Donovan now. And then Donovan was talking about his conversation with Sabrina and that how she takes no accountability for anything. And Uncle Tommy is me because I'm like, it's like, let's not like beat around the bush. Like, what exactly is it that she has not taken accountability for? I'm like, I don't understand. And Demetrius was basically saying, to have, taking accountability to have like, not being able to decide her connection until this time, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, so let me get this straight. Donovan, you're upset that she has not chosen who she wants to have a connect. Like, make it make sense. It is not something for you to be talking about she needs to take accountability for. Like, what accountability? She is in a process. She is deciding to handle the process the best way she knows how to handle the process. Now, I don't think, I think she's indecisive. But if that's how she wishes to handle the process, that is her process. Let her work through the process. I don't think the level of energy that you are giving to this situation should be just because she did not take accountability in terms of deciding who she has the final connection with. Like, guy, make it make sense. Unless I'm missing something. And if I'm missing something, let me know in the comment section below. Like, call me out. I'm just trying to understand. I just don't get it. Anyways, Sabrina, Demetrius talked about Sabrina and basically talked about how Sabrina did not want to meet his family at this stage because they're still in the building stage. And Tommy's face was our faces because we're like, you're on a show. If you don't want to meet the family, then head on out. Like, what is going on, Miss Sabrina? Like, are you taking this process seriously or not? What is it? And Tommy basically suggested that he basically takes Sabrina out, and talk to her and then make his final decision. Because it just sounded like Demetrius was in limbo, waiting on whatever Sabrina wanted to do. But the thing is, guy, you also have your choice. You are allowed to make your decision about your life. So you don't have to wait for someone to make a decision about you. You can make a decision about you. My views. And so Tommy ended the deliberation by saying one last night and it's going to be hot. I'm like, okay, sir. Sounds like you have something else planned for everyone. And I'm excited for the next episode so I can see exactly what Mr. Tommy has planned for us. It's going to be good. I can't wait. I'm going to do a curveball, like he says. So I'm excited. I'm waiting for that. So Demetrius, of course, took Tommy's advice and decided to take Sabrina out on a date. So he basically told her, like, the guys met with Tommy and blah, blah, blah. And, before he could really fully have a conversation and, basically talk about and ask questions about where things are at, Sabrina was like, I think we have an emotional disconnect. I'm like, wait, what? When? What? Hold up. And then she proceeded to say, you're a good person, but I don't think you are my person. I'm like, oh, okay. Then she goes on to say, they have fundamental differences between them. And I'm like, okay. And, she would like to remove herself from the process. I'm like, wait, what? what? Okay. And essentially that was that. And Demetrius was, of course, like, was it a game? Were you actually taking the process seriously? And of course, Demetrius was like, as sad as he was going to be, the journey started with Sabrina and ends with Sabrina. So he wishes her all the best. I was like, okay, Sabrina, it's a bit confusing. I don't understand. Because even your energy was off to the date. So I don't really understand what's going on. Like, guys, if you guys know what's up with Sabrina, let me know in the comment section below. Because for me, I'm just like, what is going on? Is she ready to love? Was she ready to find her partner? What she like? Granted, I don't think Demetrius is a good fit for her. I personally don't think so. I never thought so from day one. I was quite shocked that she wanted him, despite him not really seemingly putting much effort into her in the first place. So I was shocked from day one. But my thing is, that's who she chose for the longest time. So what suddenly changed that we're not seeing? Or is it that she suddenly woke up and thought, okay, he's not my person. He's a bit too lax. He's not doing anything to pursue me. Or what is it? But yeah, that was pretty much the episode. Now, my overall thoughts about this episode is, I do not think there are really genuine connections as such. I do not think Donovan is that into this Carmen. I think he likes her body. I think he knows that there's a lot of sexual tension there, and that they probably both just need to get that sexual tension resolved. I don't think he sees a long-term connection with her in any way. Do certain relationships start off with that and then end up into something decent? Maybe sometimes. But it doesn't seem like a really strong connection. Demetrius and Sabrina was never really truly a connection. Paul and Dakia is a very, very weak connection. I don't even think there is much of a connection. It's sort of like, we're the ones left, so can we sort of see if we can make this work? And Clifton and Joy seem to have they have a connection, but I do not know whether it will stand the test of time. I highly doubt it. I get the fact that I personally think Clifton has quite a lot of stuff to work on. And I also think that Joy is in the honeymoon phase. I do not know how long that will last for. Guys, I do not have any high hopes regarding this season. Let me know what you guys think. I am still looking forward to the next episode because I want to see any curveballs that Tommy would be showing us. But yeah, besides that, thank you very much for listening. And make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up and make sure you share this video. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. Have a lovely evening. Thank you. Bye.